Hey everyone, Cursed Deck Builder here, and we're here with a Kodama Sakashima, I'm going to say a handfall as they put it, or Handfall deck list by Peanut Wolf. And I got a message from Peanut Wolf who says here's my Sakadama deck. Currently working fine, but seems to need more consistent card draw. Any advice? Currently don't have money for Cloudstone Curio, preferably add cards that are only $10 or under. So, before we get any further, I just want to remind you that this deck list is in the video description below. I hope you can open it up on your side and take a look at it, and see what kind of changes you might make to it, and see if you agree with me on those decisions. I think it's also important to note that this is a very well-built deck. I really like it. At a glance, it has almost everything that I would naturally put into a deck like this, so it would be a really good start for anyone who wanted to play these commanders. So what do these commanders do, right? Kodama of the East Tree, which is this deck is really built around, has this clause that while it's out, if a permanent enters play, this card allows it to put another permanent from your hand into play as long as it is the same or lesser value. However, this does not cause another trigger of this to continue. The first trigger says, unless if it wasn't put in by this ability, if it wasn't put onto the battlefield with this ability. So it's kind of confusing, but it's made so you can't just do it infinitely. But of course, once you use a card like Sakashima, you each, and you have a Sakashima enters a copy of Kodama of the East Tree, each trigger, the other tree will see that trigger and trigger itself back and forth forever. The idea is that then if you play one card, you get to put out all of the cards in your hand from highest mana, being the card you play, to lowest mana, which is lands. And once you play a land, you play every land in your hand. It is an incredibly powerful combination. So, with that in mind, we can look at the curve as we always do. I'm a big fan of a curve like this. It's already looking nice. You already have ramp. All of the strong pieces are here, right? So what are we going to think about when we affect a deck like this? Well, the first thing I want to touch on is that Peanut Wolf has suggested that they have a problem with drawing cards. Now, I want to keep that in mind when we think about how this deck works and what it means to not be drawing enough cards. Because when the combo is working, you are emptying your hand. When you are emptying your hand, you are playing all of them. And so, as we progress through the game, as we have early ramp into middle ramp, as we then put Kodama and start dropping a few value cards where we play one card and get another trigger off Kodama, to the end of the game where we have both of our commanders out and the loop has set up and we're trying to combo off, doesn't it just kind of make sense that you're low on cards? Isn't that kind of the inevitability of this deck? You're consistently playing 2 to 3 cards out of your hand every turn. From early on when you can play various mana dorks to later with Kodama, you're just going to be low on cards consistently. So how do we alleviate that? How do we alleviate that in deck building? Now, what we can do is we can look through it and see what draw is there and why it may or may not be working. So you can see here, we've got nice cards that like landfall draw style cards where just a tireless tracker is something like that. Um, we've got Avenger of Zendikar that triggers every time a non-token creature enters the battlefield. We've got clone effects that work very well with these kind of creatures. We've got Gadwick the Wizened and Pull from Tomorrow, which are X draw kinds, draw X sort of spells. And we have Rishkar's Expertise, which draws on greatest power and lets us put another card in play to start the chain again. Those are our main ways to draw from what I see. We got Zendikar Resurgence, I should have said that, and Teferi's Ageless Insight that doubles, but this is different because this doesn't add draw, it just improves draw. So we have a nice little variety of draw. What are we missing, right? we have, sorry, one more I wanted to say, because we're going to touch on this, is Karuga is another kind of draw for each permanent 3 mana or greater. So we're missing two things. The first thing I think is always important is we're missing something that just draws cards. And by that, I mean there's no claws, there's no extra hoops to jump through. You don't have to worry about what X is. You don't have to get like a high enough mana that it feels that pull for tomorrow is worth it. I'm talking about straight up harmonize. 4 mana, draw 3 cards. This isn't the most powerful card, and it doesn't have an innate combination, combo or combination with your commander, right? It's just draw 4. Nothing too crazy about it. It's just draw 4. It doesn't hurt to have a few cards like that, right? There's some in green too, but I mean 4 mana, draw 3. Did I say draw 4? My goodness. I wish. Draw 3. Um, it's just a good card. It's just doing exactly what it says it's going to do, which means it works great with other cards like that, like Wood Elves or Ewit, cards that just do what they say and have a generic strong level of power. It never hurts to have 1 or 2 draw spells like that. Fantastic. However, after that, I'm looking for Shamanic Revelation. Shamanic Revelation and I believe Regal Force are the other ones that I would like you to play. Because, one, I believe they're going to draw you a lot of cards. But two, what do we do after we have, a draw card on the most basic axis of just pay mana and draw? Well, then we start adding variety to the kinds of draw. The We have draw in here that triggers off landfall. We have draw here that we put X mana into. We have draw here that is dependent on creature's power with Garruk and Rishkar. And then we have power if we put Harmonize in that just draws. Sorry, we have card draw that just draws based on based on a regular card. Now, Shamanic Revelation and Regal Force, they draw based on permanence. They look down at your creatures, either creatures or green creatures, and they say, draw that many. I think these are nice inclusions to give you a little more card draw, and I think they can go particularly wide. Considering your creature count is half your deck, and most of them are green, I think you're going to find success with those cards. Similarly, I think I'd like to just point out that it probably wouldn't hurt you too much to have 1 or 2 extra ramp cards. We have some signets here, and we have a lot of mana dorks, and we have creatures that put lands into play. I don't think I would be too sad to play either a Kodama's Reach style card, because it would put you up on the exchange by, put 1 land in and 1 land in hand, so it's card advantage. But I also think, an aura based like Utopia Sprawl, which, sorry, I'll open that up. Utopia Sprawl, that enchants a forest and gives you a second color, or similar enchantment cards, so they're permanent, so they work with your commander. I don't think it would hurt to have 1 or 2 of these. You have a very critical mass of permanent styles and land styles and creature styles. Just having 1 or 2 that are a little harder to remove, I don't think that would hurt too much. Something that after a board clear, you're not completely out. I had another thought, but I think it evaporated from my brain. So let's move on and let's see. Oh, one other thing that I feel like you're missing a little bit. I wouldn't mind removal. I guess I'm kind of getting to a point I wanted to make a little earlier. What do you do against Hushbringer? Hushbringer is a 2 mana card that prevents all ETBs from happening. Also death effects, but here we care about ETBs. This is akin to Torpor Orb, and I believe Hushwing Gryff is the other one. Oh. Yeah. Stops all ETBs. Outside of Counterspell, do you have a way to deal with this? And I don't think you really do, and I think that's a bit of a problem. This is a high level power for a commander deck. I would say, you're outside of putting in a bunch more money and tutors. there's kind of a limit of how high this power will go, and this is approaching it. This is close to being a final draft of a deck. And if you were bringing this deck to my pod, or I had a commander night and you were there to play with me, after a few weeks of this, I would start bringing these effects in decks that belong it. I'm not just going to shove Hushbringer into a deck that doesn't, it isn't conducive in. But in decks that I can get away with playing those cards, I would probably start playing these cards. Now, you can't always prepare for hate cards against your deck, but the stronger your deck is, the more you got to be aware of it, and the more you have to be prepared for it. And I'm not saying restructure your deck. I'm suggesting that maybe a few fight spells, maybe a few bounce spells. Blue has a few exile cards, anything like that, real nice. Because otherwise, right now, you have no means to destroy it. Your counter spells stop working. Half of the cards that do anything stop working. Yeah, it would be a nightmare for you. So I would really recommend having a way around that. Then just coming to clean up a little bit, I think inevitably we're going to have to look at this last little bit of cards and see what we can kind of fix up. I'm going to talk about Slim Voda, and then I'm going to leave it into your hands. But Slim Voda, I understand that for 10 mana, you bounce the entire board, right? Both your opponents and your creatures, and you get to play your creatures again after. I get that. That's cool. Remember how triggers work? That when you play Sinvloda, you get to play all the cards in your hand, but if you kick Slim Voda, then they all go back into your hand after, which might be the point, considering that it's free and you have enough cards in your hand. That's possible. But the weird thing is, in order to do that really cool combo, you have to have already played Slim Voda, because most likely at this point you have no cards in your hand and you're playing Slim Voda. So to then have more cards in your hand, yeah, it's just not going to happen. It's too many hoops to jump through. You have to. It's a lot of work to set up a combination that, don't get me wrong, would put you very far ahead, but it's just a little hard to set up. So I don't really like this card. I like to get rid of it. That being said, let's look at the 6 mana section. Outside of Kogla, because I think Kogla is very directly removal here. Let's not talk about Icy. Let's say from Rampaging Balos to Kamal. And I am just going to suggest that you look at these and you find the ones that are the strongest and the ones you want to win the deck with. Because you and I both know that the power level between Royal Elemental and, for example, Avenger of Zendikar is not 1-for-1. Rampaging Balos and Craterhoof aren't the same card. So which one would you want to be playing? You have Worldly Tutor. You have a large amount of draw. You're going to see the majority of the deck. This is a lot of finishers where I don't think you need this many finishers. I suggest to find the ones you like, and maybe you don't have to cut all the others, but think about cutting 1 or 2. All right. With that in mind, I want to finish this this deck assist with something that's not actually about deck building. See, what you said in your message is that you seem to be wanting more draw in order for this deck. You're feeling light on draw. And I'm going to be honest, I'm looking at this deck, and I think this deck is really good. I don't think it has direct problems. All of my suggestions were to shore up some corner cases. I'm not telling you, oh, you got to be playing draw. I'm saying to vary your draw. I'm saying to add 1 or 2 and consider making. I don't expect you to make more than, I don't know, 8 cards and changes, right? This deck is very strong and it's already complete. So why are you feeling that feeling of card draw being a problem? I think it's two-pronged. I think, first of all, I don't want to say it's a misunderstanding of what the deck is doing, but I think it's maybe a distraction away from what the deck is doing. You should be out of cards. When this deck is successful, your hand is empty. As long as you're doing what you want, you don't have a hand. It's on the battlefield. That's not a bad thing. So I immediately think maybe it's because you are getting countered or stopped. Like something is happening where you empty your hand on the battlefield and then you're not winning, and you're left in a situation where the board's been wiped or something like that has happened, and you have no cards and none of your commanders in play, and you're stuck drawing one card at a turn. That sucks. I could see why card draw would be very beneficial there. Alternatively, you aren't even reaching that part. You feel like you're dirtling in circles, setting up your board, and all of a sudden you're out of cards and you haven't had a chance to combo. So I don't know if it's either of these things. Those are the things that make sense to me looking at the deck. And I'm going to suggest the solution for both of those is more to do with deck piloting than deck playing. Than deck building. So the strength of the deck is very high. And I think you need to be looking at it as what kind of mulligans are you keeping? What kind of play patterns are you doing? Where are you getting stuck? If the situation is that you try to go off, you know, and you don't get very far and you get countered, okay, the problem is you're going off too early. You should be waiting for turns where you have concordant crossroads and you're able to, in addition to dropping your entire hand on the field, they can all attack right then and there, right? Okay, is the problem that your opponents are pushing too hard on this strategy? Well, I don't think your deck is so easy to completely remove outside of like exactly the counter I said, but you didn't name that, so I have to assume, you know, how do they completely counter it? You can just play the fair game of playing Birds of Paradise, Coiling Oracle, Tireless Tracker, getting it back with Ewit, you're just playing fair Magic to the board. The reason that blue green was touted as one of the strongest color combinations in Commander, you are doing it. You're playing incremental advantage while playing to the board. So with that in mind, what's going on? Now, I don't have the answer because I haven't seen you play, and that's too bad. I wish all of these would come with a clip of you guys playing the decks, but I would be interested to know what your opinion is on that, what your experience playing the deck is, because I think it's strong enough, and the only long-term changes are going to be budget ones. You mentioned you have a $10 budget. Well, if you want this deck to be substantially stronger, a new tier on the power level scale, as I mentioned in a previous video, the next question is going to be money, right? You're going to need to start playing fetch lands. You're going to need to play free counter spells. You're going to need to play more tutors. That may or may not be the direction you want this deck to be. But at the moment, with this budget and this deck, I really, really like it. I think it's very, very strong. I think with some tweaks, the deck will be stronger, but the success should already be there. Yeah, just a few thoughts. Like I said, think about diversifying a few things. Think about a few fight cards. Diversification. Figure out which strategies are working the best and how to ensure those strategies go off by attacking in a number of different angles. Okay, I hope this was helpful. I really like your deck. I think it's very strong. If you build another draft, I would love to see it. Or if you have any other deck you'd like to show me, I have a form in the YouTube description below that you can send me your deck list and I can take a look. And as always, I would be very appreciative if you would like, comment, subscribe, do the whole YouTube thing. We are growing the channel, and any support is always welcome. Thank you for the deck. It's great to see. I really enjoy it, and I wish you good luck in making it stronger.